Okay, so today we'll discuss the constraints and joins in SQL. So we learn the string functions. Okay, string functions, data functions, and some other predefined queries like a select insert update and DDML. Okay, DDL. All this we have learned the previous session. Now in this video, we learn the constraints. Very important topic, constraints, and then joins. So both are very simple to use. Very, I mean, a common, same syntax how previously we learned, right? So there is no much logics to write a constraint. Constraint it is a there is no logic, just a straightforward syntax. If you practice it 2, 3 times, the same syntax we have to use. So constraints, we are nothing to add any logics here, direct syntax only. And joins also there is no change syntax, direct joins syntax. So we have to practice multiple times, then we'll remember the syntax of that. Okay, what are the constraints in a SQL server? So constraints are used to restrict some restrictions on a table or a table of columns. Okay, so how to restrict and what is the meaning of that restrictions in a SQL server? For example, I have a table, select star from TBL employee. If I run this query, now if you observe here, in this employee ID and last name it contains the duplicate records. Salary also contains the duplicate records. Date contains the duplicate records. And first name, if you see here, it is accepting the null values. And the email also accepting the null values. Okay. So I'm just dropping. Okay, I will show the problem of this table. First, I'm going to insert one record. Insert into TBL employees. So I'm just giving the ID. Okay. ID and first name and then last name and salary values. So I'm giving the employee ID. So I have an employee ID 12 and 11, 1 to 12. But I'm giving the same employee ID 12. Okay. And then last name first name I'm giving the Shiva. Last name I'm giving the G. And then salary is 40,000. Okay. Email. So here I not specified. If I run this query, now successfully I inserted a record. Now select star from a table. Now see, ID is a duplicate. But in a real time, employee ID should not be the duplicate. It is always a unique. Then only we can identify the employee based on his ID, employee ID. Okay. So keep this point in mind. This employee ID should be unique. It is not a duplicate. Okay. And it is accepting, if you see here, email column accepting the null values. But employee email ID should not be null. It always the mandatory. We have to enter a employee email ID. Okay. So this is we cannot accept the null values. But by default, by mistake, if I given here, I not given, but it is accepting. Okay. So we have to restrict by mistake developer trying to insert data into employee table. Hello.
Hello, Anna, this is
Okay, okay. Power పోయింది మొబైల్ తో కనెక్ట్ అయ్యాను. Sorry for disturbance. I'm sharing my screen. So are you able to hear my voice, right?
Yes, Siva.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Okay. So if you observe here, I'm trying to insert a record in this employee table. By mistake, I given a employee ID is a null and joining date also I given a null. But in a real time, we should not accept this is joining date null and the email is a null. So employee joining date is mandatory and email also mandatory. And this employee ID should be the unique. It is not a duplicate. Okay. So we have to provide we have to provide some restrictions on this table. So by mistake, I given all this null values or duplicate values, it is accepting. But same query if I execute second time, okay, so it should give the some errors. So how to restrict by using the constraints? So what are the constraints present in a SQL server? We have a constraints in a not a null, and we have a unique constraint. Okay, and then we have a default constraint. Okay, and then we have a check constraint and a index constraint and then a primary. Okay, and a foreign constraints. So these are the types of constraint in a SQL server. With the help of these constraint, we can apply this constraint on this employee table, and then we can give some restrictions on this table whenever the employee is trying to insert this kind of duplicate values, null values. Okay, in this table we should not allow that record to insert into table. Okay, now what I'm doing, so I'm just dropping this table and I will recreate a same table. Now come here, expand this table, tables. So right click on this table, click on a script, create a new editor window. So it will give the table create a syntax. So this is a table syntax to create. Now I'm just removing this query, copy this one. Why I'm taking this one, and I don't want to rewrite it again this one. That is why I'm just taking this one. Okay. So what I want to drop the existing table. So we know the drop command, drop a table and a table name, TBL employee. Now command executed successfully. So it is worked or not, we have to check the select query. Select star from TBL employee. If I run this one, I will get the invalid object name because we just dropped. That means we really deleted the complete table. Okay. Now, so this is a table. Okay. Table creation syntax. We know the how to create a table. So ID and just remove these brackets. Maybe you will confuse. Remove this. Okay. Without the confusion of Okay. So now I have a table TBL employee I'm going to creating. Now if you observe here, it is a default is a null because if without I'm supplying the value of email, first name or last name, it is accepting the null values. Okay. Now I'm keeping this into first name or last name, salary, joining, email. Okay. So what I want apply the constraint, primary constraint, primary key constraint. So how to apply primary key constraint to this table? And what is the first of all primary key constraint? Primary key constraint is a constraint. The table can have only one primary key. Okay. And a primary key doesn't allow null values or duplicate values. Keep this point in mind. Primary key, the table contains only one primary key only. Okay. We cannot have a more than one primary key to the table. So, okay, how to add a constraint to this table? I'm just removing this null, add the primary key. So this is a primary key constraint I'm adding to this table. Okay, now I want one more requirement. I don't want to supply value to this column. So I want automatically we generate a value to this ID. So how to use the, I mean, without supplying a value, how it will supply? I mean, value it will create. We have a one more key called identity. Okay. So by using this identity, it automatically create a value, ID value to this table whenever we are adding this first name, last name, salary record, right? So we no need to supply the value of this table. It automatically generate the integer value with the help of identity. Okay. Now, first name, I don't want a yellow null. Okay. User must have a employee name. He must have name. So without name, we don't allow the to insert record into this table. So in that scenario, I have to use the not null constraint. Okay, this is a primary key constraint. This is a not null constraint. So here also it is mandatory. So I don't want to allow null values. Now I'm giving the null constraint. Now salary, if you observe salary, if I not support, I mean, if I not pass salary value, I want default value is a 0. So I don't want to use a null values. So I'm using the default constraint. Okay. So by default, I want to give the employee salary, for example, 10,000. If you can give the 0 or anything, but I'm giving the by default 10,000. If employee not supplied value to this salary, by default employee salary is at 10,000 I'm giving. Now joining data, if you see joining data, employee joining data should not be the null. Okay, it is also mandatory column. Now I'm giving the not null constraint, not a null constraint. And email also, it is a mandatory. So we have to use a not null constraint. And then I'm giving the one more column, age. So age is an integer I'm giving. But age also should be the greater than. For example, every employee having, okay, I want to give some restriction to the employee. Employee must have a age greater than 10. Okay, now I'm in this scenario, I'm applying the check constraint. Okay, this check constraint will check the age value whenever we are inserting the value is a age greater than, I'm just giving the value 10. So if this age is greater than 10, then only it will satisfy, it will insert the record. Now I'm going to insert one more column that is called a unique, should be the unique. Okay, email. If you see here, email, every employee having email unique. It should not be the duplicate value. Okay. In this scenario, I'm going to assign I mean, creating the unique constraint. Okay, unique constraint. And I can give this unique constraint to this in any one of this column also. So this unique, we can give multiple columns. Okay. Now, if you observe here, I'm going to cover the primary key constraint, not null constraint, default constraint, unique constraint, check constraint. And two constraint I have missed. One is a foreign key, one is a index. So those two constraint after this one we'll discuss because that is a separate concept. Now I'm trying to create this table. Click on execute. Now table is created successfully. Use this select star from table. It is created or not to confirm. Okay. Now select star from TBL employee. Now table is created. Now what I want to insert data into this table. So write a query to insert into TBL employee and give the column names. So what are the column names we have? These are the column names I'm going to give. If you observe, I'm not supplying the ID column. It automatically create a ID with the help of identity column. Now copy this first name. Okay. And then last name and salary and email and finally is the age column. Okay, we have to pass the values. Now employee name I'm giving the Shiva and last name I'm giving the G and salary. Okay, I'm giving the 40,000 and email I'm giving the shiva123@gmail.com and age I'm giving the 20. Now if I run this query, click on execute. Now if you observe here, I'm getting the issue. Cannot insert null into joining data. Okay, the column failed. If you see here, in this select query, insert query, I did not pass the joining data, but still I'm getting the issue because this joining data should not be null. Okay, employee must have a joining data. I told you, right? Every organization, employee must have a joining data. So in this scenario, by mistake, I'm trying to insert a record, but this table is not allowing to insert the record into TBL employee table. That is the main advantage of this constraint, not null constraint. Now, in this scenario, what I have to use? Now I have to pass a joining data value. Okay. Now salary after this, I'm just using the joining data. Before the email ID, I'm using the get data, today data. If I run this query, click on execute. Now one row is inserted successfully. Execute. Okay. Now if you see here, whatever the values I passed, same values it is inserted. Now what I want, I'm not passing this salary value, removing the salary column. Okay, I'm trying to executing this query again. Okay, now cannot insert a duplicate key object. Okay, in a email. So in this scenario, why I'm getting again? Because I have a email Shiva123 in this table. If you see here, I have an email, but I'm passing the same email, but in a real time, employee email should be unique. It is not a duplicator. That is the advantage of a unique constraint. So in this scenario, unique constraint will work like this. Now what I have to do, I'm just changing the email value. Okay. Now execute this query. Now record inserted successfully. Now select star from a table. Now if you observe here, I did not pass the salary column. I mean salary value in this insert query I did not pass it. But salary 10,000 is inserted. Where it is coming from? It is coming from default constraint. Default constraint is salary
అన్న వాయిస్ రావట్లేదు కానీ హలో
Yeah, sorry, power is disturbance. Okay, so in this scenario, I'm getting the issue again because I given a check constraint. If age is greater than 10, then only I will allow. Otherwise, I don't want to allow to insert a value in this table. Now, if I give the more than 10, for example, I'm giving the 15. Now, trying to insert this record. Now, see, because I'm getting the issue because again, I'm giving the email is a duplicate. I'm changing the email value. Click on continue. Now, use a select star from a employee. Now, if you see here, email ID always unique. Age, so it must greater than the 10. Okay. And salary, if I not pass the salary value, it automatically taking the 10,000 by the default constraint. So if ID also I'm not passing, it automatically inserting the ID value. Now, if you see here, it automatically inserting 2, 4, 7. Why, what happening? So whenever we are trying to insert any record, even it is a fail also, it is a taking that is a one count. Okay, up to successful, how many times it is fail also, it will count that attempt also. Every attempt will take one ID. So that is why every attempt also is taking up to successful. The successful attempt only it will take the value. So that is why these values are not in a order wise. Okay, but no worries on this employee ID. So it automatically generate. Okay, this also it a unique value. Now, if I'm trying to pass ID column, okay, I'm giving the ID and I'm passing the value something 8. Okay, in this scenario also I will get a error. So I'm just changing the email. Click on execute. So cannot explicitly insert value identity column. Okay, so we are getting the identity issue because we are automatically it will generate the value. So user no need to pass value to the identity column. That is the use of a identity. So we have to remove this one. Okay, and just giving the changing this name and then execute. Now record created successfully. Now see data is inserted successfully. So this is a main use of constraints in SQL server. So we know the primary key constraint, not null constraint, default constraint, and unique constraint, check constraint. All these constraints we have covered. Now we have a foreign key constraint and index constraint we have a pending. Now what is the foreign key and a primary key? So foreign key constraint is a constraint which is used to give the relation between two tables to maintain the integrity. Okay, I will create a one table, create a table. Table name is a TBL country. Okay, and in this country table, I have a country ID and a country name. Country ID integer. This is a primary. I don't want to give the primary key. Okay, this is a primary key. Okay, I don't want to give identity. Now I have a country name. Country name. This is a var char of I'm giving the 30 letters. Now I'm going to create a one more table. Create a table. Table name is a TBL state. In this table, I have a two records. I mean, state ID. It is a integer and it also primary key. Okay, and state name. It is the var char. Okay, var char of 50 and you can give the state code. State code. If you want to give here a country code also, you can give the country code. Country code and giving the 4 letters. Okay, and state code and giving the 4 letters or 3 letters. Anything you can give. And I want to give the relation between these two tables, country table and state table. So with the help of primary foreign key, we can give the relation. So what is the foreign key constraint? Foreign key constraint is a constraint which is used to map the two tables. So it will map the primary key of the one table and the foreign key of another table. So what is the meaning of this one? I have a country ID here also. Country ID, okay, foreign key references. Foreign key references. And I'm going to map this country ID, okay, into this side. So I'm just giving the ID here, okay. I'm just giving. I want to map this primary column into this foreign key column. So this is a table. In this table, I want to map this ID column. ID. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of this one? So this country ID is a integer, right? Given the data type integer. So foreign key references is the another table of primary key. So if you observe a TBL country, what is the primary key column here? ID is the primary key column. So it will map only primary key table, primary key column only. It cannot map the other columns in a table. So foreign key always references the primary key column of the another table. Now I'm executing this both tables. I mean, I'm creating the both tables. Okay, both tables are created successfully. Now, how to use this one? I'm going to insert some records in a table country. What is this? Are you able to see this green, blue color?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Why it is coming like that? No. What is this blue color? Okay, we'll see. What I want to insert some records into this table. Table country. Insert into table country. Copy this one. Okay. And I want a pass a ID value. ID and then a country name, then a country code. So values, country ID, I'm giving the one, country name, I'm giving the dear country code, I'm giving the IN. Okay, that means India. Now, one more record I want to insert. So country code I'm giving the two, country name I'm giving the America, and country code I'm giving the America country code. What is that? Okay, I don't know. AK I'm giving. Now I'm just inserting these two records. Control R. So the records are inserted or not. Select star from TBL country. Execute. Now I have two records in my table. Now what I want to insert states, okay, in a state table. So insert into TBL state. Okay, we have to pass the value of ID 1 and a state name. I'm giving the Andhra Pradesh. Code, state code, I'm giving the AP. Okay, and what is the country? This Andhra Pradesh belongs to the which country? So this country belongs to the India. So India ID, what is the value of India? 1. 1 is the country value. I'm giving the 1. And copy this insert query, paste here. So state, oh sorry, we have to give the column names and then the value names. So I have to use the state ID. State ID, comma, this is a state name, and then a state code, and a country ID. So we have to pass the values here. So state ID, I'm giving the 1, state name Andhra Pradesh, state code AP, and this state belongs to the India. India ID is the 1. That is why I'm giving the 1. Okay, copy this statement. Now state value I'm giving the 2. Now here I'm changing the state name of Telangana. Now Telangana state code I'm giving the TS. So this Telangana also belongs to the country India. That is why I'm giving the country ID 1. And I'm changing the value of state ID 3. And here I'm giving the Uttar Pradesh. Okay, and I'm giving the UP and the country ID 1. Okay, and the state name 4. Here I want to give the Texas. Okay, and code is TX, and this is belongs to the America. I'm giving the country value 2. Now insert this data. Now successfully inserted. Insert state table values. Insert country table values. I don't know how this color is removed as of now. Okay, I will check after this call. Okay, so we inserted successfully. Then what is the use of this foreign key? That is a question here. Now what I'm doing now, I'm trying to delete a table country record. Okay, so delete from a table country where ID equal to 1. I want to delete India in a trivial country table. If I run this query, I will get an issue. Now see, you are getting the issue. The conflict with the references, foreign key. FK means the meaning FK means foreign key. TBL, okay, TBL state, that is the table name. TBL state underscore country. It is a conflict with the database. I name this is our database name. State TBL state a column country ID. What is the meaning of this one is right? So what record we are trying to delete in this table country, that record ID is mapped to the TBL state table. Okay. So we cannot delete that record. Then how to delete this record if I want to delete? So if you want to delete this table country record value, first of all, you have to delete the stable state records. So to mapping, what are the mapping record is there, then only you can delete in a TBL country. Select star from a TBL state. So if I execute this one, so I have a table, TBL state. In this country ID, it is a references. So this country ID is a foreign key column. It is mapping the primary key column of the table country. Okay. Now I want to delete this record 4. Okay. Now in this table country, I'm just given the record. Country ID is a 2, not a 1. So to insert again, I will get a problem. That is why I'm giving a 2. Now see, I'm getting the issue. Now what I want to delete a table state first. Delete from TBL state where state ID equal to 4. Execute. Now record is deleted. We have to check self start from table state. Now I have only country 1 related states in a state table. I'm trying to delete a country table. Execute. Now see, successfully I deleted. So to check this one, we have to run the select query again. Select star from TBL country. Execute. Now see, I have only one record. So the advantage of a foreign key is the parent table record, we cannot directly delete if it is a references to the child table. So what is the parent table? What is the child table? How can we understand means? So whenever we are giving the foreign key, okay, that is a child table. What is the primary key of that table? That is a parent table. Now I'm trying to insert one more record again here. America, I'm inserting into this table. Record insert successfully and state record also I am inserting again. Insert. Now run this both queries. Now see, I have a states and countries. Now that is the advantage of the foreign key in a tables. So this is a foreign key constraint. Okay. Do you have any doubts as of now? Hello. నా వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుందా అండి?
అనిపిస్తున్నాను.
ఓకే. డౌట్స్ ఏం లేవు కదా? ఓకే. సో ఈ బ్లూ కలర్ ఎలా పోవాలో అర్థం అవ్వట్లేదు. చూపిసేద్దాం అంటే వాట్ ఈస్ కమింగ్? ఇట్ ఈస్ కమింగ్ ఎంటైర్ స్క్రీన్.
Close చేస్తాను.
If I close also, it is coming. I don't know what happened to that. Okay. So we covered the constraint and the different types of constraint. We have a one more constraint called the index constraint. So what is the index constraint? What is the use of that one? In SQL server, in table in a real time, we have a thousands of records, okay, lakhs of records in a table. To fetch those records, it will take a lot of time while loading the application. So to improve the application performance, we have to use the constraints in a SQL server. So what are the constraints? I mean, check index constraint. We have with the help of index constraint, we can insert, we can fetch data very quickly. So how to write the index constraint? So I want to create one constraint to this table. Create a index constraint in a to the table. Create constraint and constraint name. I'm giving the TBL table name, TBL employee, right? Select star from TBL employee. Execute this one. Now I want to create a constraint on this first name. Okay. So index underscore first name. First name on table TBL employee. So what column you want to create? I want to create on a first name column. FIRST, first name. So to this color, we are getting the disturbance. I don't know how to remove this one. So this color is very disturbing to this window. Okay. I will complete this constraints today. Okay. So I will solve this. I will try to remove this color. We'll connect on tomorrow after this constraint because it will a disturbance to you also. It is not very clear to you. Now click on execute. Now I try to create one index. Create index. I'm giving the index name, index underscore first name on which table you want to create. I create the TBL employee table and which column you applied. I'm applied the first name. So this is created or not. How to check? Refresh the table and then expand the table. Now expand this constraint. Now if you observe here, it will create the one check constraint, default constraint, and then observe indexes. I created the index. Okay, this is the index name. Okay, by default, okay, so primary key, if I create any table on primary key, by default, it will create the clustered index. Okay, so if you create a primary key to that column, it will create a clustered index. And then we have a created index underscore first name. So this is a non-clustered index and a non-unique. So what is this non-clustered, non-unique? Now if you observe here, it is displaying the unique clustered index and then a non-clustered. So what is this one? So unique column, unique constraint I applied to the email column. So whenever you apply any constraint unique, so it becomes automatically create indexes to the column. Now I manually created the index that is a non-clustered index. I did not apply a unique key to the table, to this table. So I applied unique constraint to the email. That is why it is showing the unique and a non-clustered index. And a primary key, PK means primary key, the meaning of that one. So ID column, it is a primary key. That is why by default clustered index it is created. And then first name, I created manually index name. Index name is index underscore first name. And this one also non-clustered and non-unique. Why it is non-unique? Because this first name doesn't have a unique constraint. That is why it is a non-unique constraint. Okay. So in SQL Server, we have a different types of indexes. One is a clustered index, non-clustered index, and a unique index. Unique index is nothing but a unique constraint also, we can call it. Okay. Then what is the meaning of that? So table can have only one primary key. Whenever you create a primary key, automatically create the clustered index. So table can contain only one clustered index, and a table contains a multiple non-clustered indexes. If you see here, non-clustered index, non-clustered indexes. So we can create multiple non-clustered indexes. Then first of all, what is the use of these indexes? To get data from this table while fetching the data. In real time, we have a lakhs of records in a table. So whenever I am applying the like operator based on search, so in that scenario, it will take a lot of time without an index. In that scenario, we have to create an index, like we create, right? Create index name. Like this, we have to create a real time also. Okay. So today we cover the index, clustered, constraints and indexes. Okay. So I will explain you joins and store procedures on tomorrow or a day after tomorrow. I want to continue, but this color is a disturbance to you. It is not giving to interest if it is there. I will check how to, remove this color in Google. I don't know. So I'm stopping this one session today because of this color only. So as of now, we have clear, right? So these all are straightforward syntax only. There is no logic. So just while creating the table, we have to give the not null constraint, unique constraint, and then a primary key or a foreign key, and then a check constraint. So here nothing logics here. So straightforward syntax only. మీకు ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయండి ఇప్పుడు? సో నేను మీకు మళ్ళీ ఆ క్లస్టర్డ్ బిఫోర్ కన్స్ట్రైంట్ ఆఫ్టర్ కన్స్ట్రైంట్ మీకు ప్రాబ్లం కూడా చూపించాను. అదే రియల్ టైం యూసేజ్ కూడా. మీకేమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే చెప్పండి, క్లియర్ చేస్తాను. లేకపోతే సెషన్ స్టాప్ చేద్దాం. ఎందుకంటే ఈ స్క్రీన్ మీద కలర్ ఉండే వరకు మీకు క్లియర్గా ఉండదు. సో ఇది ఎందుకు వచ్చిందో నాకు కూడా అర్థం అవ్వట్లేదు, సడన్గా వచ్చేసి.